we do want to talk about topics that impact those who may not have the same experience as us. And we will be watching a presentation today presented by our very own Brianna Bryant, and it's going to talk a little bit about the impacts of loneliness and isolation around this time of year. So before I turn it over, my name is Safa Bastik, and I'm a supervising prevention consultant for the Union Hub NJ4S, brought to you by Prevention Links. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to reach out to us at the end of this webinar. But before I do that, I'm going to allow you to get to know Brianna a little bit better on the same level that we know her. So Brianna is a prevention consultant for NJ4S. She has her master's of public health degree from Montclair State. She has a strong commitment to community health education and wellness, and she's worked on various initiatives aimed at improving health outcomes and promoting health equity. She is passionate about making a positive impact amongst all communities. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brianna. You can go ahead and share your screen, and the floor is yours.
So thank you, Safa. As Safa said, my name is Brianna, and I'm a prevention consultant here at Prevention Links. And today we're going to talk about the health impacts of loneliness and isolation. So loneliness is the feeling of being alone and disconnected from people, and isolation is actually being separated from people and a lack of a sense of belonging. And both of these can have impact on your health. So loneliness is a feeling, and we know like a feeling such as feeling happy or sad is not exclusive to like a particular place. So you can actually feel lonely in a room full of people is I know an expression that we've heard before. And isolation is the actual like action. So you being away from people, being by yourself, away from others. And both of these have impacts on your health. So how can somebody feel lonely in a room full of people? Here are some examples as to how somebody can feel lonely in a room full of people. So you guys touched on lack of connections. You might be in a room with people who grew up in one town and you're from another town, so you don't feel that connection. Maybe you're in a room with people who have been at a job for a long time and you're the new person, so you don't connect that way. You can be around people who have different backgrounds. So people that grew up differently than you, or maybe people speak a different language than you, so you don't have any connection there. Maybe you speak English, people in the room only speak Spanish. You have social anxiety, so you're afraid to connect with people, so you're a little more reserved, right? And then you don't want to open up to people, so some people just have their own personal reasons as to why they might be a little more reserved and a little less open, maybe a little more introverted. So these are examples of how you can feel lonely in a room full of people. Here's some reasons why people might isolate. Life changes that can range from maybe you move to a new town, so you don't have connections with people, so you stay home by yourself. Maybe you're a new parent, so you isolate, take care of your new baby. Health reasons, that could be physical or mental health reasons. We all had to isolate for physical reasons back when the pandemic started, right? Mental health reasons, maybe you just need to recharge for a bit, so you're isolating away from others. Social anxiety, so we touched on this with the feeling lonely, but social anxiety and isolation, so maybe that's like a heightened version of social anxiety where you're just afraid to connect with people, afraid to talk to anybody, afraid to leave your safe space, so you're isolating. Responsibilities, that can range. Maybe you have to study for a test, so you isolate a bit to learn your material, or you have to practice your presentation, so you isolate a bit to learn your material there. Or maybe you're a caretaker for somebody in your family and you have to isolate to take care of them. I think personal reasons, maybe you just don't feel like being around people. That happens too. Financial reasons, maybe you don't have money to hang out with anybody, so you're staying home to save some money. And family dynamics, maybe you are a younger person, or you got a new sibling and you feel like your parents are giving all the attention to this new sibling, so you feel like maybe it's pointless for you to interact, so you isolate. So how can loneliness and isolation impact your mental health? So as we learned from our presentation last week, is that humans are social beings, right? And when you're anxious and you're nervous, it really helps to be able to talk to people about how you're feeling. And if you're by yourself and you don't have anybody to talk to, these can make you feel anxious and higher levels of anxiety. Depression, right? Again, us from being social beings, you can get sad from not being around people. Self-harm, We know that if you are depressed and anxious, there is a greater chance of you causing self harm to yourself. And also, sometimes people who don't have any tangible pain, they try to make tangible pain, right? So they might do that by harming themselves so they can kind of pinpoint where their pain is coming from. Hoarding. People hoard for emotional reasons. They don't like to get rid of stuff. That can stem from you being isolated and feeling lonely. You feel like if you get rid of your stuff, you won't have anything. And your brain health, your mental health. So if you have prolonged isolation and loneliness, it could lead to like dementia or Alzheimer's. But if you are isolated for a long time, you might forget how to interact with the outside world. So that's all under your brain health. This is how your physical health could be impacted. So, obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, they're all connected, right? So, if you are in one space, you're isolated at your house, maybe, and you're not, getting out doing any physical activities, maybe not going out for a walk, maybe not going to the gym to exercise, it can cause your weight to go up. You could become obese. And, if you're obese, it can cause you to have high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, heart attack. Um, your immune system might be weakened. So part of your acquired immune system, you get that by acquiring germs. And you acquire germs by being around people who also have these germs, right? So if you're not around people for your immune system to get used to these germs, then you have a weakened immune system, right? And I'm not saying, you go out and have a chickenpox party and everybody's exposed to everything, but I'm saying, you still need like a healthy level of exposure so your body could get used to these germs. Sometimes being isolated isn't always a choice. We have things like your age, your ability, safety, and physical barriers. So for age, they touched on this in the video. They said people over the age of 65 are most at risk for being lonely and isolated. Sometimes their mobility is affected with age. Maybe it's just not easy for them to leave the house, so they don't. Again, your ability, that's not always a reflection of your age. You could be 30 and, not able to get out of your house, right? Safety, maybe it's not safe for you to be around others. Maybe you're in like something like the witness protection program, or maybe you are getting bullied at school. So for your own safety, you isolate away from the bully to protect yourself. Sometimes there's physical barriers. Maybe you're getting road work done outside of your house, and there's a barrier. You can't leave your house to get on your street. Maybe you live in a rural area where transportation isn't easy to get, in and out of your town. So you're isolated a bit because of where you live. This and isolation can shorten your lifespan. And if we just go back on some of the impacts that this has on your health, we look at depression, self-harm, obesity, high blood pressure, weakened immune system, your anxiety levels, and heart disease. All of these can have negative impacts on your lifespan, so it can shorten it, right? If you're obese, you have the high blood pressure, you're at a greater risk of, passing early. Weakened immune system, you might catch something that your body can't cure, can't fight off. So there are some levels of isolation that can be healthy. I would say for me, I need to isolate a bit after work, or pretty much anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed. What really helps me is being alone and can recharge my batteries. I have I'd say a lower social need than a lot of people. So like I actually look forward to alone time. I have to be creative with it because I have a young daughter, I have a family. But I love to like lock in, maybe like binge watch a show. That's like one of my favorite things to do. I would say for me, so I felt really isolated during the whole when we had to isolate for COVID, right? I felt lonely in a room full of people because I was in a house with people that weren't as anxious as me as the virus, right? So I felt very alone, and like I just felt like I was by myself because nobody was like necessarily like on my side or felt like how I was feeling. I was also dealing with a pregnancy, so I felt very alone in that. So for me, it made me feel like angry that I felt like nobody was taking it, on the level that I was taking it. And it made me feel scared about the future, right? I'm an anxious person anyway, so anything unknown makes me just feel very nervous. So the fact that this virus was so novel and new, made me feel very nervous. And a way that I overcame that, right? I sought therapy, right? Me and my therapist have a great, relationship. She's seen me, pregnant. My daughter's almost 4 now, she gets pictures of her. Another thing that I did, I really reached out to my mom a lot. At the time, we weren't living in the same house. She had her own house, and I was isolated with different people. Um, I talked to my mom for like hours on the phone. And I feel like, it's unfortunate we had to get to that point for me to reach out to her like that. But I think a silver lining is that, now her and I speak on the phone every day, whether it's 15 minutes, whether it's an hour, we talk every single day. And I remember, in my early adult years, she's like, I used to talk to my mom every day and you don't call me. And now I do. So I think, that's something that came out of that. All right, so here's some ways that you can overcome loneliness and isolation. You can talk to other people, whether that's in person, on the phone. We have video chats now. Attend events, right? Get familiar with some events that are in your neighborhood. Maybe you get to connect people that way, make new friends, or attend events outside of your neighborhood. That can help you connect with other people too. You can find a hobby outside of your home, and I really want to highlight it's important to find outside of your home, because if you're at home just playing video games for hours at a time, yes, that's a great hobby to have, but you still want to make those connections like in person also. So maybe you and those people playing the game, you guys can, I don't know, agree to, if you live close enough, to go on walks or something, just to meet up and socialize. Self-care, right? Talked about earlier how loneliness is a feeling. So even if you're not necessarily lonely but feeling lonely, you can pour into yourself a bit with some self-care. Maybe do some yoga, meditation, take a nice bath, positive affirmations. And here are some resources if you are feeling lonely or isolated. And then of course, if you or somebody you know is in a crisis, please make sure to contact the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very helpful being able to learn ways to support those in our lives that are isolated, or even if we find ourselves feeling lonely and isolated at times, it's a great way to kind of bring it all in. So I do appreciate all the participation as well from the viewers. If you would like to keep up with what's going on in NJ4S, please do so by following us on our social media. It is NJ4S Hub, NJ4S Union Hub. You can go ahead and send us an email if you'd like at njforusunionhub@preventionlinks.org. And please keep up with us. We hope that everyone has a wonderful holiday, and take care. Bye-bye.